So welcome back, everybody. Of course, this is Dr. Keith McNally. This is the Question Guy podcast. And I am here with Noea Moss. And Noea, I love the way you spell your name, but we're going to get to that in just a minute. You are one of the most important people on the planet for a very specific reason. Do you know what that reason is?
Should I?
You should. You
Oh,
deal with money. You help
yeah.
people with money, which is one of the most important things anybody can do for anybody else, because so many people get that screwed up in so many ways.
Mhm.
So I would love to hear your story. How did you get involved in helping people handle their money? Because you're a financial advisor, right? You are
Yeah.
literally a licensed or a
Yep.
financial advisor. Yeah.
hmm Yeah.
So how did you get started in this and how are you so smart with money?
Yeah. So I actually just got started because in college I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. But I had somebody come talk to one of my finance classes from my current office. And honestly, I barely went to class, to be honest, just because I don't know, I didn't love going to class. I was, I guess, a little bit of a rebel growing up. But so I was in class and I was like doing that day's homework while he was talking to our class. I was like half paying attention. But at the end, he was like, "Hey, if you're interested in an internship, just put your name down on this piece of paper and we'll reach out to see if it makes sense." And I was like, "What's the worst that could happen? I don't really know." So put my name, my number, email down. And a few days later, I got a call and I was like, "Well, sure, I'll come in for an interview for this
You're
internship." And like every step of the way, I was like, "Well, what's the worst that could happen?" So I just kept taking the next steps. And eventually, a few steps in, I realized, wow, first of all, even though I'm taking all of these finance classes in college, I've learned more in the last 2 weeks about finance than I ever learned from any of my schooling. And I felt really undereducated, even though I thought I knew what the heck I was doing, even though I was in college. Because that's how college kids are. They think they know everything.
been there.
um, yeah. And so I realized I wanted to help educate people around finances too, because without the education I got, I would have never learned, and who knows what would have happened to my own financial future. And I didn't want to have that happen to other people as
So
well.
so let
So
me so let me so that really begs a question. So there's a disconnect, and maybe it's just because of the type of courses that you took. I don't know. But can you identify what the disconnect is between what you were learning in college and what the real world of finance and money management is all about?
yeah, well, so I was definitely learning good things in college, but what I was learning is like in my accounting classes, like how to balance a business's ins and outflows. How to balance the debts and the incomes and things like that. And then in my finance classes, we did learn a little bit about like how to pay down debt, but we never learned what a 401k is, how to properly save for retirement, how to budget, um, things like that. And so, yes, in college, I learned the right things, but it was more things to prepare you for a career in finance versus what I help people with is how to take care of their own money, no matter what they do.
Okay.
And I didn't find any classes like that in my whole schooling career.
And there might not be. So maybe the
Yeah.
accounting courses and the finance courses are very generic in for the larger corporation. But I love that you said the individual. So because money makes or breaks us, it could
Yeah.
cause us a lot of stress or it could cause us a lot of happiness. Now, the old adage is you can't buy happiness, but maybe you can if you got the right amount of money. So how do you really narrow down and nail down the things that people need to do to make their money work for them? I guess that's one of the ways of saying it.
Yeah. Well, so the first thing I do with my clients is one, just talk about their goals. Because, yeah, money doesn't buy happiness, but it's definitely a tool you can use to get you to the places you want to go. And if happiness is where you're wanting to go, which it is for most people, it can help you use that. But that doesn't mean because you have money, you're happy. But again, if you use it in the right ways, it can definitely help get you there. So I talk a lot with my clients just about their goals. Like, what are you wanting to work towards with your money? And how are you wanting to work to have it work for you?
Mm.
And I think that sometimes things people don't even think about, because it's just you get busy and day-to-day life, and you don't think about how is my money working for me and how am I making sure I'm setting myself up.
So goals. It sounds like you're talking not just about retirement, because I think retirement is everybody's one of their goals.
Mhm.
So are there different types of money goals? Like, eh,
Definitely.
so can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, well, retirement's a big one just because majority of people do want to retire, because we don't want to work forever. So that's definitely a big one. But other big goals people work towards are maybe if you're younger or not even younger, wanting to buy a house, um, maybe planning for kiddos' education, if you're wanting to help pay for their education or your own education, even if you're wanting to go back to school. Um, Estate planning is one that not a lot of people think about until it's almost too late. Um, I also help with making sure that you have money in the best and worst of times. So a little bit of risk management in there, which isn't usually a goal for people. It's just something people don't think about until, again, maybe it's a little too late.
Should that be a goal? Because I know that's really important, and no other circumstance can hit us like the pandemic did. COVID-19,
Mhm.
people get hit hard and bad, and it was catastrophic event in many different ways. And I don't
Mhm.
just say that because it was a pandemic that took people's lives, but it also took away jobs, income,
Yeah.
security, homes, because of the loss of income.
Yeah.
So maybe risk management should be one of those goals that you do talk about.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I kind of help people bring that to light. I like to like follow the philosophy of we prepare for the best, but we plan for the worst. So again, no matter what happens in your life, you'll have access to money. Because it is important to, if you're grieving or if you're in between jobs or anything that you can still put food on the table and pay your mortgage or your rent. Mhm.
So is there a rule of thumb in terms of, how much monies that you should have in terms of, what if something happens? What if I do lose my job? What if my spouse, dies, God
Yeah.
forbid, and we lose that income, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If there's a, two income family. How are there rules of thumb for that type of risk management?
There is. So the first one you asked is like if you lose a job, usually I recommend you try to keep like 3 to 6 months of your living expenses like in a savings account, like we call it an emergency fund. So that way, if you do lose your job, you can continue your lifestyle for the next 3 or 6, like 3 to 6 months. So that gives you enough time to kind of like take a deep breath, not have to like panic about finding your next job. And usually within that 3 to 6 month period, you can hopefully find something with it. So that's why I recommend that. Now, when it comes to like a spouse dying or something, usually we use life insurance to help supplement that, which again isn't something that's really fun to talk about, but it can be really important for the family having that insurance in place. And usually we just try to replicate, okay, between now and this person's retirement, how much money are they going to be making?
Mhm.
And we just try to recreate that in the form of life insurance.
So do you also, is that part of what your products, some of your life insurance products? Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. So I help people set up like life insurance and disability insurance, even long term care if they need it, as well as all the investment things. Mhm.
So what are the various types of products, that people can invest in and make sure that their money is doing what it needs to do in order for them to achieve their goals?
Yeah. So that's a loaded question.
I'm sorry.
There's so many answers to it.
So nail it down to maybe the top three if there's too many answers.
So I guess I'll go back to retirement planning because again, that's a goal for most people. And the nice thing about these retirement accounts that you can have is they're tax advantaged. So basically the IRS set these types of accounts up to incentivize people to retire because they realize
Really?
people aren't going to save for their own retirement unless they get something out of it. And the
Right.
IRS does want us to retire, believe it or not. So they set up these
The
different
one thing the
accounts,
government wants us to do.
right? Well, because if we don't do it ourselves, they're going to have to do it for us. They've realized. So there's a little. The government always has reasons they do things, but so yeah, so they set up really nice tax advantages to a lot of retirement accounts. So that is why a lot of people save into these. So like 401ks are very common. They're usually offered through an employer, and you're even more incentivized to put into them because you get a match if you put in a certain percentage.
Mhm,
Now that's different between every employer.
mhm.
IRAs are also really nice. That just stands for individual retirement accounts. There's two main types, the Roth and the traditional, and they're just taxed a little differently. But those are also really nice tax advantaged accounts for you to save for your own retirement, and they're invested. So not only are you getting really nice tax benefits, but you can also get some really good growth on the investment side of things.
So I I I have to say that, and this is my thought. So it just
Yeah.
there it is. I think it's better to start young and early to learn how to manage money. And you're young, and so and I'm not. And I don't say that as an age difference, but to say that I didn't. I went into the Marine Corps after graduating high school, and I really didn't learn how to manage my money probably till my 30s. And
Hmm.
so that's just an open and honest disclosure,
Hmm.
which took out a whole decade worth of effort that I could have put in to really making my money work better for me. Now, I'm not saying it's not working good for me now, but I
Hmm.
lost 10 years of money
Hmm.
management. So, is there a recommendation or an acknowledgement of when should you really start? When is that starting point? When is it most beneficial to start knowing how to work your money?
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right, Keith. Like the earlier you start, the better. I mean, so when you're thinking of investing, a lot of people like to think of, okay, what rate of return am I getting on my investments?
Okay.
That's a really common question people ask. What a lot of people don't even think about is what's more important than rate of return is how long that money gets to be in the market.
Okay.
So there's this thing out there called the rule of 72, where basically if you make an average rate of return of 7% every year, which you're not actually going to make 7% every year, but on average, if you can do that, your money will double every 10 years. So, for example, if you started investing in your 30s versus your 40s, your money gets to double one extra time in your lifetime.
Okay.
And by the time you're in your 60s, doubling money from 200,000 up to 400,000 and then from 400,000 to 800,000 is very significant.
Mm.
So really the earlier you can start investing, the better. There's no wrong time to get started. I mean, the best time to start investing your money is yesterday, but since you can't do anything about that, today's the best time to do it. And yeah, just because you're getting around maybe a little later than other people, that doesn't necessarily mean you're doing it wrong. Because again, there's no education out there for a lot of people around these finances. So how are you supposed to know?
So that actually leads me to a good next question, I hope, is that as a parent, I want to help, get her started early. So my daughter's 12,
Hmm.
and are there products that I could buy for her, like in our name, but for her, that would get her started early? Because I guess,
Yeah,
30 was kind of late, but I had to do what I had to do. But 12 is a good age to start investing, I
yeah,
think. Are there
yeah.
products for kids, or does that minor uh being a minor, does that affect how people, how they deal with money? I'm lost for
Yeah, well,
words now
so
because now I'm really interested.
yeah, you can open up an account for her.
Okay.
And again, kind of a loaded question because there's so many options you can do. Like you could open up an account that's for minors, like a minor account in her name. And then she would be able to take over when she's 18. At that point, though,
So a
it's her
parent does
money.
have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not like because she's a minor, she couldn't go open her own account.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you could also open up like a 529 plan if you want to do it for education planning for her. She can have a Roth IRA as long as she has earned income for the year, which is kind of something that's interesting. Or you can even just open up a regular investment account in your own name, but just know in your brain it's for her.
Mhm.
So the purpose is for her. So that way, and a lot of people like that because the money is in your control as long as you want. And then there's no restrictions to like age, like she can use the money whenever she wants. Like, because like a Roth IRA, you have to be a certain age before you can access the funds.
Mm.
Um, and so, there's a wide variety of options. And when I'm working with clients who want to save for their kiddos, it's really a case by case scenario. Like I have way different accounts that we can open just depending on the goals that they want for their kiddos. So again, there's no right or wrong answer to the question, and there's no like pinpoint here you go answer, if that makes sense.
Well, it does.
Yeah.
But it's just the philosophy or, the encouragement and the enticement of saying, well, Keith, this is where you are now, and I'm
Mhm.
53, based on your money strategy, your investment strategy. What if you considered, I'm kind of just reversing the conversation. What if you
Yeah.
considered starting something for your daughter? And I have, and so I've actually did learn about the rule of 72, and so about 2 years ago when she was 10, I did start. She has both a savings account and an investment account.
Nice.
It's a dual account, so it's under my
Yeah.
name. I put the monies in because she doesn't have earned income at this point.
Yeah.
But that is then it jogs another thought. If she were to quote unquote sell lemonade on the street corner or in our cul-de-sac, and she starts earning money or any kind of job,
Right.
um, then that could be a way of teaching her appropriate, money management, money strategies,
Mhm.
especially that she's at such a young age where she gets to see um, the return on what she's doing, and she's learning how to manage one of the most important assets that we have in life, which is
Yeah.
what we earn.
Yeah.
So do you have do you, any thoughts on that?
No, well, I love that first of all, because like most people learn about money from their parents, whether it's good or bad, because that's what you grow up with,
Right.
and so a lot of people's relationships with money come from how their parents had a relationship with money. So I think exposing her to that at a young age and kind of teaching her and being really transparent about money, I think is only a good thing. I mean, there's a lot of families where they don't really talk about money.
Mhm.
And a lot of times that ends up with people again not knowing anything about it and not knowing how to manage their own money. So I'm all about transparency and talking about it and learning from mistakes or just even learning on the job, like making some money at the lemonade stand and okay, how much did my however many hours of work get me and what can I do with it? And so I think that's a great idea.
Well, good. I'm glad I thought of
Yeah.
that. So, if you were to, have a client in front of you, or just to our audience in general, and you know, they needed to they needed to start doing something, like they didn't do anything. They don't know what to
Yeah.
do. They're ignorant, and again, just not knowing anything about money or how to manage it. What can you tell them today to kind of put them on the right path?
Yeah. Well, so the first thing I would say is have a budget. And when I say the word budget, a lot of times people will like roll their eyes at me, because it is
Why
a lot
is
of work
that?
to have one.
Because we hear that word all the time.
Yeah. Well, so I think the reason is because one, it does take a lot of work. You have to go through all of your accounts because we all use cards now. And you got to add up every dollar you spent. And
Mm,
sometimes it's not fun to look and see how much money you spent on going out to eat or at Target or whatever you like to spend your money on. And it
right.
can be really almost like a gut punch
Ooh,
to know, wow, I'm spending this much money. I had no idea. So, it can be a little scary to do. And it does take time and effort to actually have an updated budget.
okay.
So I think that's why I
So
get that
so budget,
reaction.
budget's good.
Yeah,
Okay,
budget. The second thing I would say is have a proper emergency fund. So that 3 to 6 months
right,
of your income. Because I can show you really great places to invest, but if something bad happens, I don't want you to have to pull your money out at an opportune time because you need to fund that. So
right.
definitely that 3 to 6 months of cash. Um, and then also just know your goals, know what you actually want to work on. Because I think a lot of times we don't take the time to think about it.
Well, I appreciate that. And I do
Yeah.
appreciate the fact that you actually went back and said, know your goals. And I think, um, other than retirement, unless people have really thought about what they want to do with their money, other than, we typically have three things in mind. Retire, God willing, hopefully someday, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
own a house rather than rent, and
Mm-hmm.
buy a car, at least have a car. And so
Yeah.
those are the three major things. And then, then people start thinking about, well, I want to go on vacation once a year or maybe twice a year if I can afford it. And, and that's actually should be a goal,
Yeah.
going on vacation should be a money management goal, I'm assuming.
Yeah. No, we work that into plans all the time. Hmm.
Okay. Okay. And so there's different things. So again, I do appreciate the fact that you're identifying, know what your client wants to do with your money. And so that's so important.
Yeah.
Noah, thank you so much. This has been a
Yeah.
wonderful, educational, eye-opening conversation for me, and I so appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Maybe, we could do this again because I think there's so much more that you're itching to tell me. And I think just because of time, uh, we don't have the time to do that today. But again,
But that's okay. I'll come back.
fantastic. And would love to have that opportunity again. Any last words for the audience? Something to inspire them.
Um, let's see. I think that money can be very stressful. So
That's not inspiring.
yeah, okay. Money can be stressful, but don't stress about it. The best way to take action is to really, again, know your goals and then find somebody, a mentor, an advisor, somebody to help you implement those goals if it's overwhelming for you to do it yourself.
I like that. That is inspiring. Find somebody to help you. With
Yeah.
that, this has been the Question Guy Podcast, Season 2. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time.